Hi y'all, Austin here with Outer World Media. Welcome back to another book review, guys. This time we're talking about a book that I really enjoyed. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna share that up front with you guys. This is an author I'd never read before. This is a book I picked up at the library sale I went to last week, and that is The Tarnished Star by Lewis B. Patton. Uh, not gonna lie to you guys, I didn't expect a whole lot out of this book. Again, I was curious. It's an author I'd never heard of, never read. I just grabbed the book because it was 25 cents, and I'm glad I did. So, kind of going over real quick, giving you the overview of this book, and I feel like I did a pretty good job in the weekly update earlier this week. What is the Tarnished Star about? So, Martin Kelso receives a letter that his mother has passed away. It's been 6 months since the letter was sent. He sees a bunch of stamps and postage on there, and it's taken a while to get to him. And that's kind of there to tell us, and he kind of delves into his internal thoughts about how he's kind of just kind of wandered around. He's, looking for something, kind of a place to make a stake, make a life and whatnot, but he's not sure. He just hasn't found the right place. So he's moved around quite a bit. So it takes that letter a while to get to him. But once he receives the letter, he goes and he tells his boss, "Hey, I have to go home. My mother has passed away." And we kind of get from his boss a little bit of a conversation between him, and his boss says, "Hey, you're a hard worker. You're a good guy. You're a good kid. You need to find a place to settle down. Like you need to. You're getting to that point. You need to. It's not good for somebody to just wander around all their life." So that kind of lays a little bit on Kelso's, was what they referred to him as in the book. It lays on Kelso's mind for quite a while. And so essentially we see Kelso go to back home, where his father is the local sheriff. Well, as Kelso gets into town, he sees that there's a lot of people that are just kind of in like little shanty shacks, if you will, tents, like a little town has popped up on next to this town. And what it is you have these people who have gotten grants, land grants from the government, who are trying to make a stake, make a claim. Sod pushers is what they refer to as in the book. So that's what I'm going to refer to them as. So you have these sod pushers who are trying to get their land that is legally, rightfully theirs per the government. But the issue with that is in this town you have four big ranchers. And the big four is what they're referred to as. The big four do not want these sod pushers there. They don't want them taking land that, whether it's theirs or not, they don't want them taking land. They have huge established ranches. They want the land that they have fought for, which is understandable. But at the same time, you have these settlers who, again, the government has said, you go out here, you work the land, you do this, we will give you this land. You will inherit this land. So you kind of see both points of view. But in the middle is Kelso's dad, again, who is the local sheriff, who his wife just passed away 6 months ago. Kelso stumbles upon him in the sheriff's office, and his dad is just drunk as could be, and we get some internal monologue from Kelso saying how he's never really seen his dad drunk, let alone drink. And so as Kelso's there, he stumbles upon the fact that there is a huge war that is about to go on. The dynamite has been lit. It's just a matter of when it goes off and the fuse runs out. And Kelso seems to find himself stuck kind of in the middle. He's not taking a side. And so that's, kind of the stint of this is you have Kelso who is trying to figure out what he wants in life and where he belongs in this. But you also have his dad who is kind of getting pushback from both sides. Both sides kind of have a hold on him. And so it's a question of what is the right thing to do. No matter what you do, somebody is not going to be happy, and there's going to be stuff that happens. There's going to be a war of some sort. So that kind of, introduces you to the story. And as the story goes on, we get to see more. We get to see like a love relationship blossom between Kelso and a lady in town. There's a lot that Mr. Patton throws in this book. I always talk about how Louis L'Amour throws quite a bit into his books. And while not as much from Mr. Patton, he still seems to find a lot in there. There is a love interest. There is a double cross that's in the works. There is is this lady with her husband, not against her. Is she against her husband? You have, well, who is morally right? Both sides. One side more than the other is doing stuff that they shouldn't do. That is illegal, highly illegal. There's some hangings that try to take place. There's some grabbing people, wrapping them up with a rope, and dragging them along next to a horse. There's just so much stuff that happens in this. This is a more, I don't want to say violent, but there is quite a bit in this book. There's like 2 or 3 fist fights. There's some shootouts. Mr. Patton, and I checked, this is a first edition. I believe it was from like 63, 63 or 68. Let me double check here real quick. I do apologize, but I want to have this correct. 1963, July of 63. Sorry, July of 63. There is some cussing in this, which kind of took me by surprise. I was not expecting that from a book from 1963 that was a Western. Now, a little bit of a forewarning. If you do not like the Lord's name getting taken in vain, you may not like a little bit of this book, because it does happen like 5 or 10 times in this book. I just like to throw that out there. I know some people get bothered by that. But again, the Tarnished Star, I really enjoyed it. I've been sitting here debating what am I going to rank this book. And on Goodreads, I checked and it's got like a 3.83 stars, which, it's Goodreads, take it for what you will. I've kind of gone back and forth, and I think part of the reason I couldn't decide if I wanted to rank this a 4 or 5 star. And I initially wanted to give it 4, and I'm going back and forth still in my mind, because I'm like, it was a really damn good book. I really, really enjoyed this book. I would reread this book, but I'm like, I just kind of came off reading, a bunch of horror stuff. Like, maybe this because it's the first Western I picked up. If it had been another Western, like but again, this is a book that I've been thinking on, and that kind of should tell you right there. This book, at the very least, is like a 4.5 star. I'm debating between a 4.5 and 5 star, and it could change from day to day. One day I'm like, yes, it's a 5 star. The next day I'm like, no, it's a 4.5. So I think this is one I will have to reread to give you a definite answer. Regardless of that star ranking, this is a great book. I highly recommend picking up. This is an author I definitely will reread. I really, really enjoyed this book. His characters. Again, there is love interest. There is some canoodling, is what we'll call it, in this book, but nothing in depth. It talks about. I'm not going to get into it, but it's not anything bad. But again, there's a little bit of that. So this is a very good, I think, introduction to the Western. If you're kind of wanting to get into it, delve into it, and you come across this book, I would recommend read it. It's a heck of a book. I really enjoyed it. Again, I really, really enjoyed this book. I don't know what else to say aside from the fact of pick this book up. I really enjoy the idea that it is. You have one character, the main character, Kelso, who thinks it's kind of. He's trying to stay out of it, but he's still getting kind of like drugged back into this, range war, if you will. And the question is it going to be one against everybody else, or is it going to be a few against everybody else? So you have this idea of these people that ideally need to kind of band together somewhat near the end of this book to kind of fight the overwhelming odds, which I really enjoy. I know my buddy over at Faceless, you would probably enjoy the heck out of this book. I feel like this is a book that it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it takes itself serious enough that you're like, okay, anybody could die in this book, But again, guys, The Tarnished Star, pick it up, go get it. This is an author I'm going to be keeping an eye out. I plan on buying as many books as I can buy him. If I'm going to give him a couple more books to decide, but he may be my second favorite Western author after a few more books under my belt of reading his. And luckily, I had like 6 or 7 of his. But again, guys, The Tarnished Star, pick it up, go get it. It is a great book. Thank y'all.